Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary, and I'm with the Tattered Cover Bookstore, Colorado's largest independent bookstore. Thank you so much for supporting indie bookstores and joining this event tonight. 2021 is Tattered Cover's 50th anniversary, and we owe our longevity to readers like yourselves who support us. Closed captioning is also available on this video. There's a black bar at the bottom of the screen with a button labeled CC. Click that button and the closed captioning will appear. And remember to check out tatteredcover.com for more in-person and virtual event author information. Tonight, Tattered Cover presents mystery writers Jennifer J. Chow and Kate Lansing, who will be virtually discussing their new books, Mimi Lee Cracks the Code and Mauled to Death. Jennifer grew up reading Garfield comics and adores creating sassy kitlit. She also writes the Winston Wong mysteries, which feature a regular meowing cat. Her other Asian American novels include Dragonfly Dreams, a Teen Vogue pick, and The 228 Legacy. Kate is an award-winning short story author. Her work has appeared in the Brave New Girls anthology and the Crossing Colfax anthology. She lives in Denver, Colorado, with her husband, daughter, and chair-napping tabby cat named Maple. We think you're all in for a real treat tonight, so without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jennifer and Kate.
Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We're so excited to be here chatting about our new books.
Thank you, and thanks, Tattered Cover.
So, Jen, should we start by sharing a little bit about our new books and about our series?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. So, Jen has this awesome setup behind her with her books that she has prominently displayed. I'm just going to hold mine up. My new book is titled Mauled to Death. It is the third book in the Colorado Wine Mystery Series, which features a new winery owner who expertly pairs wine and murder in Boulder, Colorado. Although this book kind of it's a little bit of a vacation from Boulder. It goes up into the mountains, hence the Mauled to Death. It features mulled wine and is at a ski resort. So that's sort of the series.
Nice. My series is called the Sassy Cat Mystery Series, and it features Mimi Lee, who is a Los Angeles pet groomer. Her sidekick or partner, as he calls himself, is a telepathic sassy cat named Marshmallow. And the third book, I do not have a physical copy, so this is like a little printout that I made. Mimi Lee Cracks the Code. And it's also not quite set in LA. There's if you can see, it's Catalina Island. It's an iconic casino building there. And Mimi and her boyfriend go on a getaway to nearby Catalina Island. But their romantic getaway kind of turns sideways when they figure out crime is happening around them. And later on, there's a dead body involved. So they have to figure out what is going on.
And it's fantastic. I got an early copy and it's great. I read it last week and it's amazing.
And so is Kate's, because I read hers too.
Thank you. Okay, so Jen, I'm so glad we're doing this. This is our first event together. And, we've connected a couple of years ago because the first book in our series, Mimi Lee Gets a Clue and Killer Chardonnay, came out around the same time. And so we kind of connected then, and we've had, this is our third book is coming out in the series at the same time. But something I think is so fun and just a happy coincidence is years ago, we were in a sci-fi anthology together with short stories just before we even knew each other. And it's called Brave New Girls. So I'm going to hold up my copy. And yeah, I just think it's so fun that we were both randomly in this. This was back in 2015, like 5 years before our Cozy Mysteries ever came out. And young adult sci-fi short stories is kind of a departure from cozies. So I'm curious why or what made you submit a short story to it?
Yeah. So for me, I think I saw that there's a call for submissions and then the proceeds. So this is the actual series. So they're all Brave New Girls and they have different subtitles. So mine is Tales of Heroines Who Hack. And all the proceeds from this anthology go to the scholarship fund from Society of Women Engineers. And that's kind of what drew me to kind of wanting to write a short story for this piece. And I do like writing short stories, but I'm probably more comfortable in the novel space. I'm also a little bit of a science nerd. I had many years that I spent as a kid doing science Olympiads, so I think that kind of piqued my interest as well.
Very cool. It was the same for me with like yeah, the call just for it, the profits going to the society, a scholarship for the Society of Women Engineers. And yeah, I'm a total science nerd and pretty much a big geek, like a side character in my book.
Yes.
So good. Well, it's just fun. I just had to bring that up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we should talk about the side characters since you brought it up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have some like, fun, quirky side characters in your book, like best friend Sage, who loves Doctor Who and loves like all these just science fiction and all these different characteristics. So I kind of want to hear about your process of making these like lovable, unique characters.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love coming up with the different characters, and Sage is one of my favorites. I'm more like Sage than I am Parker, probably. I mean, I'm very much like Parker, but I have a lot of fun. Like Parker doesn't know fandoms, and I very much do, and I love pitting them against each other. And for Sage, I just got to sort of vicariously live through her, like show she has a lightsaber pin and she's always accessorizing with her favorite Wonder Woman, pendant or necklace. And it's just been really fun with her. I wanted the best friend of Parker to be very different from Parker. Like Sage actually, in her appreciation for wine has grown, but at the very beginning of the series, she did not like wine tasting. Mm-hmm. And like they're kind of opposites. And Parker is more of an outdoorsy, like climbing, even though Sage really kicked her butt on the ski slopes. So there's something that Sage, yeah, she was very outdoorsy that way. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun coming up with just quirky characters. And I like varying it up and showing I think I've surrounded myself with so many different types of people that I've appreciated for different reasons. And just to bring that to a cast of characters has been so fun. Reed is like this huge food nerd. And so with him, it's like trying to elevate that whenever I can. Liam is sort of a slacker. He's into photography, but he's always been this hot mess, but he's a redeemable mess. And it's fun to see him grow a little bit more in each book too. And maybe, yeah, his story is a lot of fun. But the quirky characters, I have so much fun. And I have fun researching nerdy accessories for Sage, especially. I'm always Googling things. I'm kind of then like, oh, I kind of want that. So
you have to up your budget for
I have to up my budget whenever I write a scene with Sage and have to come up with a nerdy accessory. But how about for you? How do you brainstorm your characters? Because I love yours and okay, guys, Marshmallow, the cat. I know we're talking like Marshmallow is the best cat ever. I want you to talk about characters first before we get to Marshmallow. Marshmallow will get his own.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry.
Well, he's part of it too, because I think having a quirky, he's like the opposite in many ways of Mimi, because she's kind of like, she really won't kind of push buttons, or she's kind of quiet as she sleuths, but he's sort of out there and he has, his ideas of how things should work and how he should probably be in control of the sleuthing investigation. So I think part of it is that, and he's snarky, right? Which is always fun to add to the mix. And then I think Josh is a love interest. He's a neighbor and a lawyer. And so it's nice because he, I think, balances everything. And he's sort of like the, ideal boyfriend in a way. So I don't know if he's quirky as much as just like being that solid friend and boyfriend who's around. And then sometimes I like to introduce like different characters in different books. So like book 1, I have a lot of the, so there's a Chihuahua theme. So then I have a lot of ladies who tote around Chihuahuas. And so they're their own like set of, quirky characters. In book 2, Mimi Lee reads between the lines. It's at a school. So there's all these teachers who all have different traits, and they're a little bit, vying for like top spot at the school as well. So that's interesting. And then here in Mimi Lee Cracks the Code, book number 3, there are the vacation rental home owners of the island, and they're sort of like a mixed bunch too. So I have fun just kind of throwing different personalities together.
I love it. And I love that you talk about how like you'll pair, like, yeah, making Marshmallow opposite of Mimi. Like that's always kind of fun when you purposely put characters together that you want to clash a little bit. And it's like first to like get tension, but also just to make that the main character Mimi like grow, you know, or yeah. Yeah, I think that's so cool. And okay, so you one thing I want to ask you especially is the family. So speaking of characters, the family dynamics you bring up. So in book 2, it focuses a lot on Alice, who is Mimi's sister, and I love watching Mimi with her family. And in this book, it made me chuckle. The mom is always trying to set poor Alice up on dates, in a superhero speed dating situation. Oh my gosh, I was just laughing out loud. I thought like this is so fun. And so I want to ask you about the family dynamics. How do you come up with some of that? Is it based on your real life, family or experience?
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, the families are so much fun. Both, they're definitely close knit, and I have a close knit family, and I think that's part of what I kind of drew from. So they have and across all the books, they have this family game night where they come together, they play board games, but really they're there for like the good snacks while they're playing the games. So we didn't have family game night, but we did have family movie night. So I think that's kind of where that piece came from. But some of it's over exaggerated, like Mimi's mom. My mom was never like that. She wasn't like matchmaker, extraordinaire, and like thinking of all these like ideas to either in the first book get Mimi a date, and in the second book get Alice dates. And so that was exaggerated. Although we did have aunties, who would want to play matchmaker and have like suggestions of like, oh yeah, maybe you should meet so and so, or I know so and so's son, blah blah blah. So there was that. And then the younger sister, I think the sister relationship probably had to do maybe more with cousins that I saw growing up. And then, I also have 2 girls, so that's helpful to like create that sister relationship. But what about you? Because I love the family dynamics in your books, Kate, because you have such complex and complicated relationships with parents and with Parker, and then also I think with Parker and her brother. But it's all feels like really like natural and authentic, even when they have conflict.
Thank you. Yeah. The family dynamics are just so fun to write, I think. And a lot of it stems so I love I'm a sucker for sibling relationships, and they always crop up in my books. And I had kind of I don't know, different relationship with my brother, kind of difficult. And so I think sometimes I channel these ideals, and they're not even ideals, they're just real but there's always this redemptive quality to them, where I think the cool thing about family is when you come together and you love each other, even after, if you maybe butt heads a little bit. And I think for Parker with her family, they are really close and they are really tight knit, but then there is that bickering. They know each other. They know how to push each other's buttons like only siblings can, right? And it was fun to have. So Parker goes on this getaway to the mountains with her boyfriend Reed, but she also is there with Liam, her brother, who is dating her best friend Sage. So it's sort of this quartet, which has been fun to show them. In the first book, Liam and Sage were not dating, and the second one they start to, and now kind of growing. And it was going into writing the third book, it was interesting to think about how I was going to play with Parker and her brother being on vacation together, which traveling always sort of shakes things up and brings tensions to a high point, and trying to do that in a natural way. And so there's always somebody in a cozy mystery who's like, oh, don't you investigate, that's not safe, or you should be relaxing and enjoying your vacation. And it was kind of cool. I thought it would be neat to see Liam in that role for a change, and not not so much Reed, because he's been there and done that. Not the detective or the sheriff. I just thought it'd be kind of something different. And Parker's parents, I love the relationship with her mom. I've had so much fun with it because in the first book, the mom and Parker didn't really see eye to eye, and that the mom is a chemist. And then in the second book, it shows the mom sort of figuring out that like, oh, winemaking has chemistry involved, and like I'm going to help with the harvest. And now in the third book, Parker calls upon her to help watch the winery while she's gone, and kind of showing that. And even though she's not on screen, it was kind of a cool way to show, look, they're still growing and in their relationship. So, yeah.
Actually, you touched upon something that I was kind of interested in.
Mhm.
Our books, we're just like on the same wavelength. We have these short stories, and then these third books have like a getaway spot, right? So I'm kind of curious about, how you got the idea and maybe what kind of research you did to kind of pick your ski resort and the setting.
Yeah, I know it was cool when I saw yours was going to take place at a vacation destination too. And it's like, yes. When I first pitched this series, I pitched it as 3 books, and I knew the first 2 would take place in Boulder, and I knew the second one would be around kind of harvest because I wanted to show that. And then the third one, I wanted to really showcase another part of Colorado. I love setting books here, and I love trying to highlight some of the different places that make our state shine. And I thought it would be cool, skiing and snowboarding and the mountains. It's so synonymous with Colorado. So I thought, let's do a getaway. And in order to prep for the writing of this, I actually took a trip about 2 years ago, and went up to the mountains to a ski resort for a weekend. And it was actually on Valentine's Day weekend, as it so happened. It was great. And it wasn't supposed to be. It got postponed a couple weeks for some reason, but then it was like, this is even better because my book takes place at Valentine's Day. And I took so many notes, and it was so helpful because even though I've grown up in Colorado, I'm a native, and I've skied, kind of off and on my whole life. There's something about when you're going into the actual writing, like I needed to pay attention to how the boots sounded when they hit snow. What did things smell like up there? And just really pay attention to exactly which muscles twinge when you're going down the mountain. Like Parker, I'm about as skilled as she is. I'm very, very cautious on the mountain. But it was kind of this trip just to make sure I really had a lot of those sensory details down, because I think that helps the writing process. In addition to seeing the ice sculptures and the twinkle lights, and I'll say that the resort that I set it at it's sort of a fictionalized resort based on a few of my favorites that just combined in my brain and kind of came out on the page. But how about you? So Catalina Island, have you been there? Did you go there for this?
I did. Well, I think I did it backwards, maybe. So you went and you said, I'm going to research. And I just went for fun a couple of years back, actually, maybe around the same time that you kind of took a trip. And I just had a lot of fun going around the island and seeing sort of like the quaint Avalon area. And then also, we rented a vacation house, which kind of sparked the idea for this book 3. And it was actually not like an ideal rental in some ways, because like some things were like not working, and so it kind of also upped a little bit of the tension within the vacation. So I think that kind of maybe sparked me as well. But I do remember like taking a lot of pictures and just like going all around. And then later on, when I was thinking, what do I want to do for book 3, I thought, oh, this would be great if I had sort of this a little bit away from LA, but still close enough, for them to go back and forth. And so that's kind of how it happened.
Oh, I love it. Was there a Marilyn Monroe scarf at your house that you stayed at? Or
there was not, but we go to the museum, and there are like lots of like memorabilia and like photographs, and all those different celebrities that have gone to the island. So that was a lot of fun to see.
And just for the audience, I did ask that question because Marilyn Monroe's scarf plays a very pivotal role in Jen's story. Not only is there a murder mystery, there are thefts throughout the island. And it was so cool how you incorporated different sort of mystery elements all together. So it was like a whodunit, but then also like a, but wait, who's doing the stealing? And yeah, so that was really fun. That's why I asked about that. Was that so? Since we're talking about that, should we talk about like the different mystery elements?
Yeah.
You both kind of included that. Would you like to tell a little bit about how that came to be? Like, did you initially, were you like, I know I have to incorporate it, or yeah, how did it work for you in the process?
Some of it was organic. I think some of as I was plotting it, I was like, I kind of want to make things a little bit like, unique and kind of up the stakes in some ways too. So now you have like this dead body, but then you have these thefts as well. So like, what is actually going on? Are they related? Can Mimi help solve these, both these mysteries in a way? And so I think that's kind of what I wanted to do. It was a little bit like, oh yeah, let's do something different with Catalina Island, and let's do something different with these other crimes that are happening on the island. And I think for your book too, there's also, theft and then other things that are like raising the stakes in your book. So what happened and how did you get inspired?
It was very similar to you. It was like, it's in a different spot, and I haven't done anything with thieving yet. And I guess I thought, like, it just seemed kind of interesting. And especially when somebody's at a resort, you're there, and like, if little things are going missing, and like, well, what's going on here? And then a murder happens. Are they connected? Are they not? I think it just kind of amped it up, and it was kind of a fun challenge for me, and something different to incorporate. And fun. It was a lot of fun to write those scenes.
Okay, speaking of fun, I gotta know, because I know you do research for your books, and I do for mine, and I want to know what is sort of like a unique or most fun research outing that you've gone on or done.
The best one was, I went to a winery during harvest, and this was before writing the second book. Because there's so many good resources out there, and I've researched a ton of like the chemistry of winemaking and YouTube videos and just all sorts of stuff. But I went to a local winery during harvest, and it's Bookcliff Vineyards, and it's in Boulder, and it's a tasting room. And it's very similar to Parker, except they actually have a vineyard on the western slope in Colorado where they grow their grapes. But very similar to Parker, it's a tasting room, and they actually had bins of, I think it was a Pinot grape that was fermenting in the back. And I got to go in there, and it just smelled like jam, like grape jelly. Like you walk in and you're like, oh my gosh. And it was so fun. And they weren't very busy. And so I sat down and I did a little tasting, of course, because that's very fun. But then I also was talking to, and whoever's interested in learning anything about wine tasting, something I think is so cool is that the people working at these places are always so friendly and willing to answer questions. And in this case, I kind of said, hey, do I see, and it's a small space, so I could kind of see in the back, and I saw this plastic tub and said, can I go and see the grapes and see everything? And they actually gave me a little tour in the back. And this very nice lady answered all of my questions, and I learned all about, they call them punch downs, but it's like all of these real terms that the industry uses and techniques, and I got to see it, and that was probably my favorite research trip that I've done. And it was, and I think it was not only fun, but I think it really helped in the writing of that book to make it more authentic. How about you? There's so many things that come up with animals, and I'm always amazed. It's like, oh, like this special lotion, or this dog needs aloe vera, or like clipping. And so tell us about, like, what do you do for research for Holly Wolf and for all of the pets? And
I feel like I mean, there's just so many resources out there, like you said, and people love either blogging about animals and pets, and there are a ton of YouTube videos out there. And then I've also kind of shadowed and looked through windows as pets are being groomed. So that's a lot of fun. I would say though, my favorite activities have been maybe side activities. One was reading with a dog. So I actually got to read a book with a dog next to me. So it's like a therapy dogs, and you can actually read with these dogs. But it was just so fun to like just be there, and I don't know, it's like pets and books at the same time. That was fun. And then a few years ago, I went on a trip to Japan, and they're big on having all these pet cafes. So I went to a cafe where you just got to hold like just different kinds of pets. Like I held a ferret. There was a hedgehog there. There's a hedgehog in my book one. Mimi gets a clue, and then they had like meerkats and like just all sorts of different animals that you could like see and like some hold and touch, and so that was exciting as well.
Oh, that is so cool. When I was in Japan a few years ago, and I really wanted to go to a cat cafe. So we're gonna have to go back, and I want to go to the one with all of the animals now.
Yes. We actually had a cat. We actually went to a cat cafe here too. There's like a local one, and so I got to play with the cats and take my kids too, and then they had a blast as well. They're like, "Oh, great research for your book! Tag along."
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, and so one of the biggest, I'm just such a big fan of the series and of you in general, but I mean, the series, I love the focus on cats. I'm the biggest cat nerd. I like realized I'd inadvertently added like a new cat in each book. Like, I don't know how this happened, but I've been a fan of Marshmallow from the beginning. And then there's Nimbus, who is such a cute addition in the second book. Can you talk about how you write the cat personalities? Do you have a cat, or is it from picking up things here and there? Like,
I think it's a combination. So we have relatives who have cats, and we've played with the cats, and I think some of the snarkiness comes from some interactions with these family cats. And for a while, when one of my kids was younger, she thought that she could shake hands with the cat. And the cat was not having it. And so I think that, some of those like sort of attitudes are in the books. And also I was a big, I think it was in the intro, big Garfield comics fan. And so I read a lot of those. And I think that snarkiness definitely comes through the character. And here's a fun fact. So I used to read comics with my brother, but we couldn't share the comics. Like, we're all kind of budging each other. Like, let's, I want to read. So then I ended up learning to read upside down, because he would read the comic and I had to read it upside down so that I could actually read it at the same time. And so that's a fun fact for you.
That's really cool.
And so, okay, now I have to ask you, because I know that in your books, it's like book one cat, book two cats, book three cats, like a third cat. So tell me, how, was that intentional, or did you just happen?
It wasn't intentional, although I'm working on book 4 and I purposely added another new cat, because I was like, I have to keep this trend going. And it's not that my main character is just adopting cat after cat after cat. It's sort of like the first one is Zin, which is her short for Zinfandel. Of course, Minery owner has a cat named after a grape varietal. Who I love writing the personality of cats. They do the catitude, and you totally captured it. Like cats have their own agenda, and I always imagine if a cat could talk, if I could hear my cat talking to me, it would be very much like Marshmallow. Very smart alecky, like, why aren't you just using that mouth of yours? Like, talk, like use that brain. And anyway, so I have a lot of fun with Zen, who is sort of Parker's furry partner in crime. And then in book 2, it's the boyfriend's cat. The boyfriend gets implicated, and while he is otherwise occupied by jail, she takes his cat in. And so then there's 2, and you kind of get to know William is his name. William Wallace is his first name, based on Braveheart, because I thought that was just such a funny boyfriend thing to do. Mm-hmm. And then the third book features a resort cat, which I was in, a resort cat who sort of lives at the resort, and guests can pet the cat, and it kind of comes and goes. And Madeline is her name, and she's a lot of fun to write. Very mischievous cat too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so can we talk about romance? So you have some romance in yours, and I think romance and cozy mysteries in general, it's such a fine balance. right? Like Mimi meets Josh in the first book, and then the second book is Valentine's Day, and then their relationship, it slowly sort of grows. And I guess I'm curious, with romance and cozies, how do you balance that? The subplot can't take over. The mystery has to be the main one. How do you keep them growing through the series? And just, yeah, romance and cozies, what's your take? How do you do it?
That's a good question. I try to just keep it authentic to the characters. So Mimi and Josh, they have very cutesy, kind of a little bit goofy relationship. And so I definitely keep sort of that lighthearted romance vibe, I think, between the two of them. And I think that fits sort of their personalities and the way their relationship has grown. But then I also want their relationship to, you know, to experience things, right? For them to have like ups and downs. And so, like in the third book, there's a little more strife in the third one between Josh and Mimi, and I feel like that's authentic to the relationship and authentic to real life. And so I knew I wanted to add that element in place. So I think some of it's just organic, and I try to have the relationship just sort of mimic what it would in real life as it goes over time. Yeah. But I think your relationship is not your relationship, relationship of your main characters, I should say, is so interesting and fascinating. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about that, because I feel like you've got a good mix of like, you got a little bit of heat between, Parker and Reed, but authentically, not cheesily, which would be my fear. And then you also have like, just like all the ups and downs as well. You have some, deeper aspects of relationship of like, how do they talk to each other? How did they communicate? And like, what about their backstories, and how does that influence their relationship together?
Yeah, I have a lot of fun writing the relationship between Parker and Reed. The romance, yeah, it's a fine balance in cozies. You can never get too hot and heavy. Any romance has to happen sort of, if more than a kiss has to happen off screen. And so it was kind of fun. I had like this hot tub scene that was like heating up, and it was kind of fun because it was like, nope, throw in some disaster related to the murder. So in one way, like cozies are kind of fun because you get to show snippets like that throughout and show the characters connecting and the chemistry, but then remind the reader that, oh yeah, there's this other main plot going on. And with Parker and Reed, I love in relationships, and like you said, for Josh and Mimi, there is conflict, especially when you're learning how to communicate with another person, and you're kind of at the early stages of dating, even within just after a few months, you're still figuring each other out, and you're still learning each other's whole story and history, and how do you mesh. And I think it's kind of fun to show some of that, those decisions that people make. Do I want to be with this person? Like, do you love them? Like, and just showing the characters working through that. And it also helps the characters grow themselves and show their own arc. And so a lot of the time, it's like you said, it's organic with, well, what is Parker struggling with right now? And how can, it's almost like, how can everything challenge her and force her to grow, right?
That's true.
Including the romance. But it's a lot of fun. And I love writing kiss scenes. I mean, I love writing a good fight scene too, or a good unveiling or things like that, but I love a good kiss scene. So it looks like we have a question from the audience. Should we, let's see, Emily, can you both talk a little bit about your writing process? Do you outline the plot before you start, or let the story come to you? Good question, Emily. Would you like to go ahead?
Sure. So, okay, in writing, some people call themselves plotters, and they plot things in advance. Some people are pantsers. They fly by the seat of their pants. I think I'm a little bit of both. So maybe, I don't know, like a plantser. And I do outline like a general arc, so I know where it's going. And I definitely know the characters that are involved, what the crime or crimes. And then I do plot like bit by bit before the chapters as well. But I also let things grow organically from the characters interacting, and then how sort of like pivots along the way. So I think it's a little bit of both for me.
I like that. And I'm similar. And I will say I used to be a big pantser. for the first book, I pretty much pantsed it. I knew the main story beats, the beginning, the halfway turning point, and then sort of the end. I knew who did it mostly in the first book. And I gave myself some wiggle room, but then I've actually turned into a hardcore plotter. Part of that is because my editor likes to see outlines, likes to know what I'm going to be spending the next 6 months working on before she sees it. And so, but I actually love it. I found that I love plotting things out. It ends up being like a 7-page single space outline where I basically kind of break it down. And it's almost every single story beat. I brainstorm the characters at that point, a lot of them. And then that way I get some early feedback on it, which is usually very helpful and on point, as most editors' feedback is. And then I sit down and I write. And I usually, things change a little bit throughout when I'm writing. A character might get fine-tuned a little bit, or I might shift things around, or decide I want to add another clue, because clues and red herrings are super fun in mysteries, right? And I always have a good number of them, but sometimes I think, ooh, this clue can come back up over here with this character, and oh, that's perfect. And there are these things that crop up during the actual writing. So some of it changes. And and for me, I don't know, it usually takes me like 4 months to get a first draft done, and then shorter after that.
I would say I agree with the idea of plotting in advance because of editor feedback, because my editor also likes to have a nice synopsis of everything that happens, it's beginning to end. And so that does push me to plot out a little bit faster than I probably would normally do. So it looks like we have another audience question from Donald. What authors do you like to read when preparing a new book?
Ooh, good. That's a great question, Donald. It depends on what genre or what I'm writing. So if it's short stories, I like to read a lot of the short stories, a lot of the more recent ones. If it's like a cozy mystery that I'm getting ready to brainstorm, I'll often read like a lot of the contemporary cozies that are coming out. But then again, I also like to spread things out. I read a pretty big variety. So I love sci-fi and fantasy. I might go to like Sarah J. Maas is one of my favorite fantasy authors. I might read like her latest one. I love Louise Penny. Her traditional mysteries are amazing. And I always find them so inspiring how they really take you to Three Pines. So I might read one of hers. And I don't know. I do try and read a lot within the genre that I'm getting ready to write. Or if it's a young adult mystery, I'll look up, who are some of the big ones? Who are some of the ones with maybe, I don't know, just to get inspired and just to see what is sort of in with that genre. But I also believe in just getting inspired, filling in that creative well with things that just, with a variety too. I didn't mention too many specifics. Hopefully that's okay, but that's in general what I try and do. The list is endless of my TBR books. But go ahead, Jen. What do you do?
Oh yeah, big TBR pal. But I would say, see, it's interesting because I think I flipped on this. Before, I would not want to read in the genre that I was going to write because I thought I didn't want to be too influenced. So I was trying to, particularly when I was writing, not when I was editing, but when I was writing, to stay away from the genre so that I wouldn't like incorporate other people's like ideas or just like that, I don't know, like pull in their writing style. But I think I've flipped on this. And part of it is because, now it's like if I didn't read it while I was writing, I don't think I would ever read like cozy mysteries again, right? Because there's just not that much time of a gap to do the reading. And so I think now I do read kind of everything, whatever kind of sparks my interest at the time. So a lot of contemporary cozies, other kind of mysteries. I like domestic suspense. I like traditional mysteries. I like young adult books. So I'm a little bit on the gamut as well. Women's fiction too, I'll read that. But for, I guess, preparing a new book, also I think some craft books. So recently I really like Save, am I getting this right? Save the Cat?
Oh yeah, Save the Cat.
Save the Cat writes a novel.
This is huge. And I haven't read the book. I attended a session on it once.
Mm.
I think are you going to try it for your next?
I've been trying to use like that sort of a little chart and try to figure out of how that works.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Craft books are always fun to read, to prepare to. Donald Mass is one of my favorites, writing the breakout novel, plot and structure. Yeah, there's a whole bunch out there that I think are really helpful. And authors whose voices that I've always appreciated. I also go back to that. Just who were the authors that made me fall in love with reading and or still love reading, and just, yeah, I find it still inspiring. Who's been your favorite character to write? From Jossie. Hey, Jossie. Or Jazzy. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. So would you like to go first, Jen?
Now I'm trying to think. My favorite character. I mean, really, it's gotta be Marshmallow. Really, he's just a lot of fun because he has no filter. And so I feel like I can put whatever I want him to say in his mouth and he totally gets away with it. And he's a cat, so it's totally fine that he has no filter. He's also a little bit like the comedian inadvertently, or inadvertently, because he'll kind of set me up for the fall, right? He'll like say all these snarky things and then she'll just blurt stuff out in response to him. And sometimes that gets her in trouble because no one else knows that this cat is talking to her. So she'll just respond to the cat. And then like Josh will be like, wait, why are you shushing me? Or something like that, where it kind of goes a little bit haywire because she's responding to Marshmallow.
Do the conversations with Marshmallow, does that come really natural to you? Does it just kind of flow? Because I can feel that when I'm reading it, just this flow of like, oh, the snark's coming, here it comes.
Yeah, I think so. It's like a movie in my head. So that's the way I picture these like sassy cat mysteries. So then I'll like, I'll kind of see it play out in my head, and I'm just like transcribing at that point.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And my favorite character to write is hands down Liam, Parker's brother, who, again, he's kind of a hot mess, and he's had this soft spot in my heart since the beginning. And any scene he's in, it just flows really naturally. And I have fun writing those and writing the conflict, sort of the nagging back and forth between him and Parker. and he's just fun. He's kind of comedic relief too sometimes, although he's a very good skier, and that was fun. I loved showing like some of these different characters being really good at this thing, when in the rest of the book, like the first two books, like you didn't really see that side of them. But yeah, it's definitely Liam, I think, is my favorite to write. He kind of steals the scene whenever he is in it, at least for me.
So I had a question about we're talking about, setting our books is actually in like sort of urban areas, right? So LA for me, Boulder, Colorado for you. And so my question is, writing cozy mysteries, how do we make these settings cozy when they're kind of larger urban areas?
Yeah, good. Good question. I know for me, it's still showing that there's a community in these urban settings. So showing that Parker, even though it's maybe a bigger city of Boulder, or you're up in the mountains and there's a lot of people there, showing that there's still this core cast. It's like this little community within it, and the suspects all kind of fall just right around that sort of community. So yeah, that's sort of how I do it, is with the characters.
Yeah, same.
Do it.
Same. And then I think just with the neighborhoods too, sometimes I highlight specific neighborhoods because LA is just so huge. So I'll have them go around like different pockets. And so that makes it a little bit cozier. But the suspects field is definitely smaller. It's a limited amount. It's not like everybody in LA, then it'd be impossible to solve this mystery.
That would be so hard. Okay, so we're kind of going to start wrapping it up, but so what are you working on now? What's next for you?
For me, let's see. So November is sort of like busy month for me because I have two things coming out. One is this anthology. I think that comes first. It's Midnight Hour. It's not cozy. So it says chilling anthology of crime fiction from 20 authors of color. So that's been a lot of fun to write a short story in, and it actually got a star review from Publishers Weekly, I think it was. And so that was a lot of fun. And then I have Mimi Lee Cracks a Code, which comes out November 30th. Little cover. And there's Marshmallow, you can see. And so that's a lot of fun to write. And then also I have a new series coming out in the summer, and it is the LA Night Market Mysteries. And it's set in LA, and it's trying to find a picture of it, of the cover, because I just did a cover review. And so it's two cousins who run a food stall in this night market in Los Angeles. But then one of their customers winds up dead. And so they have to figure out what really happened. So let me see if I can find a good picture of the cover. I have a cover.
The cover is amazing. And so it's called Bubble Tea's Armor, or Bubble Tea.
Death by Bubble Tea.
Death by Bubble Tea. That's it. It's
Yes.
brilliant. A brilliant title and cover.
So that's it for me.
I'm excited for, all of these, but I'm excited for your new series. And I've heard so many good things about Midnight Hour too. I've been seeing so much buzz about that anthology. So you're very busy doing this. And for me, so the third book of the series just came out last week, Mauled to Death. And I'm actually hard at work on book 4, which is titled Till Death Do Us Port. Which,
nice title.
Coming up with cozy mystery titles is one of my favorite things of all time. The punnier, the better, right? That comes out next fall, and it is a lot of fun. As the title sort of pretends, it involves a wedding. Not any of the main characters yet. Parker is attending her favorite cousin's wedding, and providing some of the beverages to go with it, the wine. And of course, things go awry and a murder happens, and she has to dive in and figure out what's going on. So that's what I'm working on, and that's a lot of fun right now. So I guess we can kind of wrap up. And thank you, Jen, and for doing this. And thank you, everybody, and the Tattered Cover, and for the audience for joining us. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. I'm so glad you joined us. And again, lots of fun having this chat with Kate. And thank you to Tattered Cover again for hosting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Take care.
Thanks. Good night.